Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, there's a bit of drama with Doctor Who at the moment. There's a lot of fear and anxiety and um, anticipation for the next season and the specials, because not only do they have the 60th anniversary to work with, they're also going to be under like new management basically. I can't remember who's bought what, but basically Disney is going to be involved. It's going to be produced with American money. It's not just all done by the BBC anymore. So a lot of the issues that they had with the BBC are probably going to be gone, but we may have new issues with Disney. And will they carry on the good parts of the BBC? Because it was a bit of a mess. And Russell T Davies has come out and made a fairly fair criticism, but people are using it to justify other things that he's not speaking about. He's basically saying there's a lot of people in the industry who are there just for politics and political messaging, and they have their own agenda. They don't care about the stories, they don't care about the characters, they don't love the industry, they're just there for their politics. And that hurts whatever they're working on. And that's absolutely true. But that's not everyone. The CHUDs will tell you that every show that has a slightly progressive theme or a slightly diverse cast or anything is just, a bunch of extreme left, SJW, people, political agendas and everything. And there's a few people like that. There's a few people on both sides that are extremists that kind of ruin it for everyone else. But what Russell was saying is true, but, he's unwittingly or unknowingly given the CHUDs a whole lot of ammunition to attack all of Doctor Who and pretty much all of the industry and say it's all basically people with political agendas and, no love for the characters or the industry, when it's really just a small segment of people that are doing that. And part of the problem with Doctor Who was they changed everything all at the same time. They should have eased people in. Had they just changed the Doctor to female and kept the rest of the show running as it was, I think people would have been very accepting of it. But they changed everything, and the people who didn't like the Doctor, purely because she was a woman, because they're misogynists, were able to jump on all the other elements that changed about the show that didn't work and use them and almost seem credible when criticising the show, because they weren't just coming out and saying outright, we hate women, we don't want a woman in charge of the show, we're a bunch of misogynists. They were attacking the writing and the edutainment sort of view, and just using current day politics too much and not having enough fantasy and fun and all those things that a lot of people were legitimately criticising, who weren't bothered by Jodie or having a female Doctor, but they were legitimately criticising those elements, didn't care about that. And the people who only cared about that were using those same elements to justify their criticisms. And now Russell's sort of given them a bit more ammunition, because he's basically said, well, yes, a lot of the shows were woke and a lot of people working on them had their own agendas and they didn't care about the work, and that hurt the work. But again, that's just some people in some shows, but they're going to use that to say every show that is even remotely, well, not regressive basically, is basically one of these, woke trash shows. So I think he's done more harm than good with this statement, but he's speaking the truth. He's talking from his experience, and it is something that has happened, but people are going to use that and act like that's the norm and that's the standard, and that's everything they don't agree with is going to be this issue now. So, but it is interesting to see, or to sort of speculate on how the next season is going to go now that they're working for a different company, different people, and they're not just under the BBC. So will they have the right mix of progressive messaging and stories and diverse cast, along with action, adventure and classic Doctor Who, and budget to really do the aliens and the environments and the worlds that we sort of fell in love with the reboot of the show, where they basically had money for the first chunk of seasons, and then that sort of drifted off, I think, along with part of the writing being more political. I think was also because they couldn't do the big science fiction adventures anymore because they didn't have the money for it, so they were doing more earthbound edutainment sort of things, which is what the original series was. It started off like that. It was just this Doctor walking around lecturing kids about ancient history, and he'd go back in time in the TARDIS to show them the history. That's really how it started. The science fiction stuff came in later. Then that became the main attraction. Even though they didn't have the budget for it in the original show, that's what they sort of focused on. And then when they brought the show back, they actually had the budget to do it properly, and they really expanded the universe. That's why people loved those first few seasons. And then they sort of got cheap, I think, and then they got political, and combination of the two wasn't a good combination. yeah, I just found it interesting that Russell said this, that he seemed to say it kind of tone deaf in sort of the current sort of pop culture war sort of, climate, that he basically just gave the Chuds a whole bunch of ammunition to use against his own show and the other Doctor Who's, when, he really wasn't just talking about them and so forth. So I just want to talk about that for a minute because I thought it was interesting. And yeah, I'm done. I'm interested to see how the next season goes. How gay is, the new Doctor going to be? How far are they going to go with this stuff? Is it going to be too much? Is it going to be a right balance? We'll see. I have a bit of faith in Russell, but a lot of people are, like, a lot of Chuds are screaming for them to reverse the Timeless Child. I don't think they're ever going to do that. So those people are never really going to be happy. But will they just write around that and past that and not really dwell on it? Or will they draw back on it and then double down and then just, time will tell. I'm going to go.